Can sex and love be separate? Polyamory versus monogamy. This is what we are going to be reacting to today on the All in All podcast, episode 27. I'm your host, Playmore69, aka Michael, and we are going to be reacting to another Jubilee middle ground video. Just want to give a big thank you to Jubilee for letting creators react to their videos. Anyways, let's get right into it.
Middle ground is a social experiment that brings humans with opposing beliefs together. These discussions may contain viewpoints that are the result of misinformation. Remember to seek out experts and to be critical of your own biases while forming an opinion. Please see the humanity in each participant, and as always, we encourage empathy.
There's plenty of people out there that can separate sex and love, but for me, when I have sex with someone, I fall in love with them. And while I do have friends with benefits, these people are chosen very specifically because I know that I will have to go through heartbreak on my own when I have sex with them.
Step forward if you agree with the prompt. I can separate love and sex.
Okay, so how I react to Jubilee videos is obviously whenever there's a prompt, I either agree or disagree with it. So that's what obviously I'm going to be doing in this one. And just to give sort of my side on this, so everyone knows where I stand, I lean more towards monogamy, partly due to more or less I'm lean towards more social conservative beliefs. So I'm more just into monogamy in that way, even though polyamory does seem pretty appealing. I tend to lean in the monogamy way. So I can separate love from sex. I believe I can. I don't know if everyone can. There's been studies that have shown that men are able to separate sex from love at least better than women on average, but honestly, I believe I can, but it's probably not the case for anyone. So let's see what they say.
For me, I think that I can separate it, but oftentimes it doesn't turn out that way. This is kind of the cliche, but I do think that sex for me is better when I'm in love and when I have respect and communication with the person. I also think it depends on how we define love, because I could maybe, love that person as a human, but maybe not in a romantic sense. So I think there's a lot of nuance around it. I'm not really someone who's gonna say like one or the other.
I also agree with that as well. When you have those intense feelings for a person, the sex definitely hits different. Knowing that you feel safe enough with this person to be emotionally vulnerable as well as physically vulnerable with them, it's a very special bond that you share.
Yeah.
I feel like.
I really resonate with that because I'm actually a survivor of sexual assault and I'm also disabled, so I think that trust plays a really huge role, and that perhaps could even, be more important than the love factor.
I think for me, I can make the clear distinction because I've had a lot of meaningless sex in my lifetime to make me feel good, to occupy the sense of loneliness, and then I've loved someone, but the sex part just hasn't worked out, but the love is there. And sadly, relationships like that didn't work out for me. And I do agree with what you guys said. When I'm in love and I can trust someone, it's better, especially as a trans individual. There's a lot of people out there trying to fetishize that don't understand your body or respect you. So having the love part makes it a lot better.
I love deeply. The people that are around me feel that. Love and sex to me are completely different things. They absolutely can exist separately. I hate the fact that even the polyamory community is fetishized as well, and it's completely sexualized. It's only about the sex. Similarly to you, I have a sexual trauma. I have things in my life that affected me deeply that I'm still dealing with till this day. And the fact that it's automatically just clumped in is just something that I have to kind of oppose.
All right, so that was the agreeers to the prompt, and I think I agree with mainly all of their points that they made. Basically, they were saying that, yes, they can separate sex from love, but at the same time, loving someone and having sex with them obviously improves the, I would say sexual experience, and, I would tend to agree with that. So I agree so far, nothing crazy yet.
While I don't believe this is true for everyone, obviously there's plenty of people out there that can separate sex and love, but for me, when I have sex with someone, I fall in love with them. And while I do have friends with benefits, these people are chosen very specifically because I know that I will have to go through heartbreak on my own when I have sex with them.
I've been with the same person. My husband and I were high school sweethearts. He's the only person I've ever been with. And so it would be hard for me to separate sex and love simply because I've never had to.
I think it's also important to note that some people are maybe asexual. And so if I have an asexual partner, which I have not had before, I would have that discussion and it wouldn't have to be integral to be part of our connection and such. My name is Jessica and I'm polyamorous. To me, relationship anarchy really has to do with destructuring our ideas of hierarchical relationships in that romantic and sexual relationships don't have to be at the top. I think it's actually a lot healthier to have a community with our friends, our family, romantic partners, etc.
My current relationship status meets my needs.
Well, I guess I'll answer this question too. I'm not currently in a relationship, but I would say it does meet my needs because I don't need to be in a relationship in order to feel happy.
You know, one way I know I'm in the right relationship with my wife, we still enjoy texting each other, I love you. You know, you always start out in a relationship, oh, I love you, I love you. And then, you know, are you still doing that 10 years later?
We've had, both my fiance and I, our fair share of struggles with mental health in very different ways, but that understanding and that support, even if I do say something really fucked up, even if I do react maybe erratically or violently during a panic attack, he keeps coming back, he keeps trying. Our love is stronger after every single disagreement and every single hurdle.
So for myself, I practice a type of polyamory called solo polyamory, or sometimes a style called relationship anarchy. And these two styles are inherently less about hierarchy and more about autonomy for myself. With my current relationships, or what I'm able to achieve, it gives me enough flexibility for me to feel really good about the things that I choose to take part in. And even if I'm in a relationship that's not so great, or a relationship that isn't fulfilling to me, I can still be looking for other relationships, or maybe I have another existing relationship that is more fulfilling, or that actually does support me in a way that my other relationships don't. My name is Randall and I'm polyamorous. For me, the process of coming out as polyamorous was really me deciding that getting out of monogamous relationships because I had feelings for somebody else was just not working for me. I noticed that other people were practicing other styles of relationships where they were being truthful to their partners and admitting the fact that they had feelings for other people and doing it ethically.
Currently, I'm dissatisfied with my relationship status because I did just come out of a really bad breakup, so I am single at this point, and I can be self-sufficient enough to enjoy my own company, but it's just in certain moments in life, like for example, I was taking a long road trip and I just imagined my ex, me caressing her leg while we're on the road trip, and you kind of wish that you just had a person just to share those moments with.
So I practice parallel polyamory, which means that my husband and I see other people and we don't necessarily need to meet or get along with the other people that we're seeing. And I love my husband. I've been with him for 18 years coming up, and I have some friends with benefits, but I am looking for someone else to be in a relationship with that fulfills some needs that I'm not getting from my current partner. What I've been looking for, I'm starting to probably determine that I'm not going to find one person who is going to fill the rest of these boxes, and I may have to separate that up into multiple other people, whether it's relationship-wise or otherwise. I'm Bunny, and I am polyamorous. The way that I deal with jealousy is I like to break it down and ask myself why. Why am I feeling jealous of my husband? Is it because he's spending time with someone else and I need more time with him or my other partners? Or is it something else? And once I break it down, I can then address those issues, such as requesting more time with that partner if I am feeling jealous that I am not getting enough time with them. Or I can take it upon myself to fill said time with someone else or with another activity to be able to not focus on the jealousy that I'm feeling.
I'm really glad that she touched on the jealousy factor, because I really wasn't going to comment on like their relationships or whatever, because it was like, you know, that's all like personal, and really just me having a take on that is like nonsensical. It's like, why even have a take on, you know, whatever their relationship status is or whatever relationships they're in. But I really like that she was able to touch on the jealousy part, because it's like jealousy drives monogamy. It's like pretty much the sole reason why most people are monogamous, because they're jealous of their partner engaging in sex with other people. And I have to say, I'm the exact same way. You know, if I had a partner, I'd be jealous if they were engaging with other people. So it's kind of at least interesting for me to think about, like, if there was some way to circumvent the jealousy, or I wouldn't say suppress it, but some way get around it, you know, would that make the population more polyamorous, and just, you know, maybe make polyamory just more appealing and just more popular? I really don't know, but I think that if there's a way to sort of like just get jealousy out of the way, then I think more people would be polyamorous. Anyways, the next prompt is, patriarchy is the root of monogamy. No, I definitely don't think it is. I think it's jealousy. Do I think patriarchy has some sort of root in monogamy? Maybe. It definitely could, but it's also the other way around too. So it's not only the men having control, it also could be the women having control as well. Personally, in my opinion, it's jealousy. So that would be, I would disagree with the prompt.
Patriarchy is the root of monogamy.
In the little bit of like research, I guess, that I've been doing, and realizing that it was absolutely contractual. It was absolutely for gain, advantageous reasons. It was never love.
Way back when, it was like you said, it was contractual. Like, women in general were an object to be purchased. While that has changed, that is still rooted in the system of monogamy and people thinking they need to be with someone forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that's how people stay in abusive relationships.
I feel like there is a lot of pieces of monogamy that are rooted in that patriarchal sort of feel. However, there are a lot of people who feel like monogamy is just the best option for them and are connected to their person regardless of that. If we're thinking about queer relationships as well, and people who are married to a partner of the same gender or outside of the norm, I don't feel like they are feeling that patriarchy.
I don't know if I would say that it's like the reason that everyone is monogamous. It does play a role in just the way that we just construct our realities.
But we see monogamy across so many species, and that has me wondering, obviously in human society it was a big component, but there's something so much larger than that in monogamy that reaffirms my belief that it's not really about the patriarchy. It's about this inherent need within us, and some of us lean towards monogamy and some of us lean towards polyamory, and that's just the way it is.
I mean, I think it really just comes down to jealousy at the end of the day. I think that people have this sort of jealous feeling. I mean, maybe if you want to like look at it like in the wild versus like natural selection of other things, maybe having jealousy is almost like a defense mechanism in a way. I don't know, to protect what you really love. You know, I don't know. I would have to think on that. But personally, I think if you want to look at the root of monogamy, I think it really just comes down to jealousy at the end of the day.
Obviously, I'm a little bit older than everybody here. I grew up and really didn't know much different. The churches were pretty much, this is right, this is wrong. You know, when somebody said polygamy, I was like, oh, they must live in Utah. That's about the only place you knew where that could possibly exist. And there was no discussion of why somebody has that relationship. We didn't talk about any of that.
We should make a distinction that it's not also polygamy. We are polyamorous.
Okay.
So polyamorous and polygamy are two just different things.
And see, a lot of it is,
Right, just information and
yeah,
not
I
knowing.
grew up not knowing.
Right.
It's unrealistic to commit to being with someone forever.
I don't think it's unrealistic for everyone, but for the vast majority of people, yes, I would agree with that, because, you know, if you just look at the divorce rates in the United States, they're about 50%. So it's basically a 50-50 chance if you're going to get divorced with the person you marry. But some people do stay together forever, but obviously I think that's declining. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's unrealistic. I would just say it's not very likely. That's how I would word it. I would probably say that, you know, if you're in your 20s and you're getting into a relationship, even if you're with that person for a year or two, which for someone in their 20s is a long time, I still wouldn't say, you know, oh, you should commit to that person. You know, even at that point, it's very unlikely you're going to stay together forever. But at least that's just my take. Let's see what they say.
So I feel like we spend a lot of our lives dating and trying to figure out who we'd like to be with, and we don't always get it right. So I feel like thinking about it that way, it's unrealistic to think about the fact that the one person that you end up choosing will be your forever person. It could change in the future. The divorce rate is very high in this country, so I think that's an easy way to think about it.
I also think it fits into that fairy tale concept that, you know, this is the one. And living on a planet that harbors like 7 billion people, I feel like that's highly unrealistic, that you're just gonna be in love with just this one person your entire life. My name is Mel, and I am monogamous. I've just had this self-discovery that there's so many things about myself that I just need to work on, and it's rooted in me just not wanting to go out of my comfort zone, and polyamory is definitely something that is out of my comfort zone. If I was to try it, maybe I would actually like it.
I think it really depends on the person. I mean, I feel like I can only speak for myself. You know, a lot of people do stay together for, say, you know, kids or something like that, or perhaps finances. It's, you know, a privilege to be able to maybe get divorced or live on one income. So I wouldn't say that it's a, you know, catch-all black and white issue.
I definitely feel that you can be with someone forever, but you're going to change as individuals as you grow. And it all depends on how those changes and work with each other. So if you are able to change and accept the changes of your partner, then you can be together forever. But a lot of people change, not necessarily in a bad way, but in an incompatible way.
Yeah. I would also like to add, I did believe that I would have a forever person, but recent experiences of a breakup that just happened, that's what changed my perspective. And I looked at it more logically. I should be more open to the fact that I will meet other people down the line, and I shouldn't assume that this person is going to be with me my entire life.
I mean, I'm polyamorous, but I've been married to my first boyfriend since we were like teenagers. I think that's my forever person. And I believe that for me, and with the waves and with the changes, you know, yeah, you make that recommitment over and over again. And I think that there can be that forever person for anyone, but I also understand experience plays a role in that tremendously, and I haven't had that experience of loss.
My opinions of this have shifted after being in a really toxic, bad relationship where I really wanted it to be my forever, but deep down I always knew it probably wasn't gonna be feasible. And then after that relationship, I didn't want to be in a relationship at all. And this amazing person came into my life, and I knew, and I tried to push him away, but it became evident that that was just my person. My name is Luca, and I'm monogamous. After being in a polyamorous relationship, I really knew monogamy was the route I wanted to take. There was some jealousy going on in the relationship as to how I loved each person, and that I couldn't divide it 50-50, and I didn't want to. I want to be able to give 100% of myself to one person.
Man, they got sponsors in these videos now. We'll watch it since we're watching their video. I always watch the video into its entirety, so if they have sponsors in the middle, obviously they're going to be playing in my video too, because that's the least I can do for Jubilee. Anyways though, I like what he said about Luca. He said that dividing up his love, like in the polyamorous relationship when he was trying, was extremely hard. And I think that's another reason like why like I couldn't be polyamorous in that way, because like even though the jealousy part, you know, something maybe I could overcome, maybe something everyone could overcome, I don't know. But when it comes to dividing up your love in the relationship and your time, it's very hard. You know, just committing it to one person is really hard. So dividing it up to multiple people, you know, obviously some people would require more time and love than other people, but still, that's a very hard thing to do. And honestly, what makes polyamory look much more challenging, because like, yeah, you're reaping the rewards of having multiple sexual partners at one time in multiple relationships, but at the same time, your life gets a lot busy, like a lot more busy with like, you know, focusing on one person is busy enough, but imagine focusing on 2, 3, 4 people. It's just, it's very hard to think about. But anyways, let's get to the ad.
Oh, it's kind of making a sick beat right now. Hey good humans, we can all agree sex and love are complicated, but the truth is you can explore your sexual pleasure regardless of your relationship status, including on your own. That's why we're taking a moment to thank the sponsor of this video, Lilo. Lilo is on a mission to speak up about sexual pleasure, break taboos, and remove stigmas through education. They are globally recognized and established as the luxury pleasure brand with years and years of leading the way for personal and partner pleasure. Lilo has a wide variety of toys, including the Sela Cruise. But Lilo is not just a sex toy brand. It's a self-care movement aimed at those who know that satisfaction transcends gender, sexual orientation, race, and age. Because after all, pleasure has no gender. It's all about taking pleasure into your own hands so that you can educate yourself about your body and pleasure first to enjoy sharing it with a partner. So check out the link in the description to learn more about sexual wellness and become part of the self-care movement that's all about coming together. Now let's get back into the video.
The home environment.
Glad I'm not a YouTube partner, because this video would definitely be demonetized, but you know, I don't make any money off of YouTube anyways. So next prompt. The home environment that I grew up in sets a good example for my future relationships. I would say yes. My mother and father have been together as long as I remember. They've been together since high school. So as long as I can remember, they've been together. I think they've been together for over 20 years now. I think it's been about 23, 24 years. Currently I'm 21 and they were together for a couple years before they had me. So I would say, yeah, it does set a good example for my future relationships and probably how my relationships are eventually going to turn out. Because, you know, I think that seeing a strong monogamous relationship for, you know, as long as I can remember, it's probably going to reflect into the relationships that I have in my life, which hopefully are strong monogamous relationships, or could be polyamory. I don't know, but have to wait and see.
Environment that I grew up in set a good example for my future relationships.
I think for myself, I grew up seeing a lot of broken homes and people who had divorced parents, and I felt super fortunate that that wasn't my home life, and I'm sure it shaped me in ways that I'm not even able to comprehend. They were a really good example of the way that I want to treat another human.
My mother, I just remember her like doing it all. She was just like the pillar of strength, and I think just saying that, I always thought like, okay, I can do it no matter what, and if I have a husband that can complement that, then that's awesome. My name is Emerald, and I'm monogamous. My husband and I have been together for 17 years, and I think that within our monogamy, there's an issue that I have with him, that we're addressing it head on, and we're able to fix that within our relationship, as opposed to introducing other people. And so I think that over the years, our foundation has been strengthened simply because we're able to communicate to one another.
I grew up, my parents are married, they've been married from my birth to now. Eventually my mom stayed home and my dad kept working, but he still was trying to be active in my brother and mine's life. But as I developed mental health issues and became a difficult child, he did not cope well with that, and he kind of like pieced out for a bit. So I don't think that set a very great example, because in my greatest time of need, I would have appreciated if he stuck by my mom and stuck by me. So even if it is difficult for me to interact with my child, that's not what I want for my future.
My experience growing up was definitely similar to yours. My father was away a lot, so it was just me, my older sister, and my mom. And the way that my parents communicate, it's like their relationship, they can do pretty much over the phone. It's that lack of communication, and also having an emotionally unavailable mother, it definitely shaped a lot of codependency issues on my end.
My father was an alcoholic up and through my teenage years, and when he recovered, my mother became a really bad alcoholic. I guess a good precedent for monogamy, you stay together with the same person till death. They were together until she died, but it was not good for either of them. I don't think that they loved each other at the point in time that I saw them. All it kind of like says to me in that is like, don't stay with someone because you're supposed to, because you signed a piece of paper, or because you have children together. You need to take care of yourself first, because you can't be a good parent to your child. You can't be a good partner if you aren't taking care of yourself.
I grew up in a pretty religious household. There were certain ways that you needed to behave, certain ways that you needed to act and be, and I played that role really, really well. And I was applauded for it, and I was given opportunities because of it. And to kind of step out of that was really hard, and mainly because my family was just surrounded by a lot of secrecy. We don't talk about things, we shift them under the rug, and we just bury our emotions as much as we can so that we don't really have to deal with it. And that is not at all how I'm choosing to lead my life. My name is Katie, and I'm polyamorous. I struggled with my faith and also being a polyamorous person, because this is absolutely, completely frowned upon in our community. I was a worship pastor for many, many years in a very conservative church. When I started to just be a little bit more truthful with who I was, I had to really re-wrap my mind around what I truly conceived God to be and what that love towards me looks like. I realized there was just no way that I could keep hiding this really important part of myself.
A polyamorous.
That's also another thing why probably a good majority of the population are not polyamorous, is also because of religion. I think that in the United States alone, like 70% of something people are religious in some way. I am not religious, but again, if you just look at that 70-something% of people are religious, let's just say 50% of those people are monogamous, that's a massive group of the population that are monogamous because of religion. That's also a factor I didn't even think about, probably because I'm not religious myself, so me not being religious, that's not a factor in me being like polyamory versus monogamous. So yeah, anyways, last prompt here, it looks like. Let's get into it. A polyamorous relationship is appropriate for raising a family. This one is definitely probably a hot button topic. It's one that probably is debated on a lot. I'm really trying to think. I don't want to give like sort of a bad take here, but I guess I would say it depends on how it's structured. So like, are you going to have multiple people in the household that like live together? Like 3-4 people relationships that are going to be in the household. You can have multiple people. I mean, I definitely think that you could raise a family that way. I mean, Mormons do it, but at least I always look at data and historical data to predict the future. And, Mormons have kind of lived that polyamorous relationship for raising a family, and they tend to raise, decent families compared to pretty much everyone else in the United States. So I would say, is it appropriate? Under my view, yes, but probably under other religious beliefs, no. Can it work for raising a family? Yes, which I'm assuming that's what they're trying to convey in this question. So I would say yes.
This relationship is appropriate for raising a family.
So I have a 6-year-old, and me and my 2 partners, we raise him, and Baltimore City, schools knows about it. My son has an IEP, so that means he has some learning disabilities, and there's 3 people to support, to be there for him. So I don't know, I think for me, just it's allowed me the freedom to, kind of go after goals, go after dreams, and have the support system still at home, and I know my son is lacking nothing. I mean, it's tricky because, you have other little kids are like, oh, why does Lucas have 2 moms and a dad, and it's just kind of easy to just be like, families just look different sometimes. Just being more open about it, even that in itself is gonna give kind of just more space for these family structures to be just respected, because I know that in my community, I think we're the only ones really kind of openly being this way about who we are, and we haven't seen any sort of backlash or anything like that, so.
Like logically, practically, it does make sense to have that support. And we're also talking about kids when we say family. I think it expands much further than that. And so you see people who already have multiple parents with stepdads, stepmoms. And so I see no reason that this is not an addition to that, So I just want to put that forth too.
The one thing I heard is the 3 of you, whatever you got to do, you're going to do so he can be successful and loved and cared for and feel safe and be safe. My name is Mike and I am monogamous. What I love about my wife so much and makes our marriage special is A, she puts up with me. And we have found ways that we support each other with what we like to do professionally and spiritually and help out. And I think that's a lot of what I took away today. I saw that with the other side.
So as for my household, we have 5 children. Our parents live 2.5 hours away, so it's mainly us doing the brunt of the school pickups, drop off, all that kind of stuff. While I do see that it would be very beneficial to have someone else, I think that's why nannies are available, babysitters, that kind of thing. Trying to add someone else to our lifestyle would make me so anxious. It would just be like, oh my gosh, there's another person in the house that needs something, that has to do something, and then somebody else to have to deal with, and then they possibly want sex tonight. I would be like, I'm over it. So that's how I feel. That's how I feel.
That's why Google calendars exist. I get what you're saying, and that there is a lot of that in the polyamorous community where you're interested in someone and they're like, hey, look, I really like you, but I just don't have the bandwidth right now to add another partner. But at the same note, if you or your husband got another partner, they could watch the kids while the 2 of you go out on a date night. That would add time for you and your husband to be able to go off while because they could be integrated into the family.
All right, we can cut.
Okay, that is the video. Obviously the original video will be linked down in the description, but at least to respond to the last prompt there, I really like what they said about adding the extra support to the family. I really didn't kind of think about that at the beginning, but now that the more that I think about that let's say if 3 people live in the household, one person could stay and watch the kids while the other 2 people, go out on a date night or have fun or whatever. So, that makes a lot of sense. And also it, saves on the cost of having a nanny or, a babysitter there because, even though that having a nanny or a babysitter would help, it also costs money at the end of the day. And having someone there that adds a lot more benefit over time would probably outweigh their cost. Maybe, I don't know. That's really for, the people in the relationship to decide. But I think this was a good video. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Obviously, I react to a lot of Jubilee middle ground videos. I think this is my 3rd or 4th I've done on the podcast at this point. So sorry for the podcast not being super long and, doing more of a longer reaction, but I definitely always come back to Jubilee middle grounds because they're obviously top tier videos in my opinion, because they can challenge each side's beliefs and also challenge my belief to who I line up with more. And honestly, I agree with both sides. I think this was one of the most respectful middle grounds I've watched. There was no screaming, and it was just people sitting down and having a conversation, which I really like. So you don't always have to go into that super debate mode to have a conversation. So anyways, I think that's where I'll end the podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. And until next time, see ya.